howdy, hey, how is everybody doing? And welcome back to Disney Daily. In today's video, we are breaking down episode 8 of the Monsters at Work series called Little Monsters. In this episode, Tyler is paired up with a never-before-seen monster, Miss Flint's daughter, and he gets a new perspective on being a mifter. At the start of the episode, we see Miss Flint and Tyler, who are witnessing a new jokester monster named Josephina, practice her newly acquired comedic techniques on the test dummy child in the simulation room. After Josephina makes a couple of fart noises using her props, Miss Flint then congratulates her on becoming a jokester. Afterwards, Miss Flint then turns and asks Tyler to come forward and audition. So Tyler goes up to the simulation room, pulls out some peeled bananas, and steps on them, thinking that this is going to cause a laugh. But Miss Flint is very unimpressed and tells him to try again next week. We then fast forward to the next week and Tyler auditioning, but he is told once again that he has failed. This continues to be a reoccurring cycle for a couple of weeks, and Tyler actually manages to light the test child on fire. Tyler then turns to Miss Flint and says, "I know Robot Boy is burning, but I'm pretty sure I heard laughing too." Miss Flint tells him that while she appreciates his persistence, all her data indicates he isn't very funny and in fact is very boring. Tyler is confused. She clarifies further by saying, "Look, not all scarers are cut out to be jokesters, and that was your last audition." A wave of sadness and disappointment hits Tyler as the lights to the room go out and he is left all alone. We then cut to the entrance of Monsters Inc. with a sign that reads, "Welcome Mini Monsters," and we hear Adorable's voice in the background, who seems to be doing what he does best, passing out his famous snow cones. We then see Sully, who explains to the kids just what Mini Monsters Day is. He says to them that it is the one day where they get to enter the factory and can learn about the various departments at Monsters Inc. As the camera pans, we see a bunch of mini monsters who are all being lectured by various monsters at the company. We then see Miss Flint escorting her daughter Talia into the building, who seems to be very adamant about not going to Mini Monsters Day. As Miss Flint takes Talia to the front desk to check in, she finds out that Talia is assigned to the Mifters for the day. We then see Fritz, Cutter, Val, and Duncan in the lobby, who have come to collect their mini monster group. One of the kids asks, "I thought we were going to be paired up with jokesters," to which Fritz replies, "No, but don't you worry. You get to spend the day with us, the Monsters Inc. facility team." The kids begin to talk amongst themselves, and one of the mini monsters says, "Great, we are on the toilet team." We then cut to Val, who introduces herself to Talia and tells the young monster that she is in for a great day. Talia is not amused, rolls her eyes, and walks away. We then see Tyler with a mini monster named Alexander, who seems to be very fond of Tyler, but also quite a chatterbox. Val then walks up to Tyler and says to him, "Lucky you, I ended up with Miss Flint's kid, and let's just say the crab apple doesn't fall far from the tree." Tyler turns to Val and says, "Miss Flint's kid, as in Miss Flint who is in charge of auditions?" Val shakes her head yes and reiterates that Talia is so much like her mom, a stick in the mud essentially, as Val puts it. A light bulb goes on in Tyler's head and we get a glimpse into his mind and ultimately his master plan, which is to get Talia to laugh. Tyler thinks that if he can get her to laugh, then she will tell her mom, and that would mean he could get another chance to audition for a jokester position at the company. Believing that Talia could be the key to his success in the company, he turns to Val and says, "Trade with me," and Val hesitantly agrees. We then cut to Tyler introducing himself to Talia in the elevator, and Talia scoffs. As we cut to the Mifter break room, the Mifters and mini monsters have all been paired up with one another and begin to bond and get to know each other. The monsters all seem to hit it off right away with their minis, all except for Tyler. We cut to Tyler and Talia, who are struggling to get along and find common ground. Tyler tries hard to make a connection with her, but Talia just asks to be taken to her mom's room. We then cut to Needleman and Smitty, who tell the Mifters that they have lost their kid and that they need some help. Talia suggests that they call security, but Tyler cuts in and asks, "What does the monster look like?" Just then we see a small orange slug-like monster hanging on the moving doors up above them. Needleman and Smitty yell, "He looks like that!" and the child continues on in the door track. Fritz then tells the group to split up and search the door shafts for the mini monster. Tyler then turns to Talia and says, "Let's go." Talia replies, "But I'm not a mifter." And with a subtle smile, Tyler says to her, "Well, today you're with us." We then see Fritz and his mini monster Gertie head to the security room and ask the monster inside if she has seen a small monster lost in the door shaft. She tells a baffled Fritz that in order for her to help, he must fill out a form, otherwise Rose will have her head. We then cut to the other mifters monsters and their minis as they explore the door shaft up close and personal. Tyler turns to Talia and tells her to keep her eyes peeled and to tell him if she sees anything. We hear a baby giggle in the distance and Talia yells, "I saw something!" As she sticks her head out of the vehicle to get a better glimpse at the mini monster, she is almost severely injured by the passing doors. But Tyler pulls her back just in the nick of time. Tyler pages Val and tells her that they have spotted the mini monster named Little Gibbs and that he is headed their way. Val and her mini monster accidentally lose control of the vehicle and ultimately they lose track of Little Gibbs. We then see Tyler and Talia, who are about to crash headfirst into Val and Alexander. But before the collision, it cuts back to the security room with Fritz, who is still arguing with the monster on duty. We then cut back to see that Tyler and Val have avoided a crash and that all of the Mifters have now managed to regroup. Just then, Little Gibbs slowly goes past them as Tyler yells out, "There he is!" We cut back to the control room and the security monster tells Fritz that the kid is headed toward a shredder shaft. Fritz instantly panics and tells her to shut it down, and when she doesn't move quick enough, he pushes her aside and takes over. Fritz then pages Tyler and informs him where Little Gibbs is headed, and Tyler says under his breath, "We gotta stop that baby." Tyler then turns to Talia and asks her to take over the controls. Talia confusingly asks, "Controls? I'm not a Mifter." But Tyler doesn't care and tells her to drive. As Tyler jumps onto the door next to them and grabs Little Gibbs, Talia begins to lose control of the Mift vehicle, but Tyler tells her not to worry. They both see a line of doors headed their way and Talia tells Tyler he's gotta jump, and he does. We then cut back to Tyler, who hands over Little Gibbs to Needleman and Smitty, who are overjoyed to have their mini monster back and safe. Fritz congratulates the team and invites them all to a round of drooler coolers back in the break room. Duncan's mini monster turns to him and asks, "Hey, are you gonna puke? 'Cause you look like you are." To which Duncan replies, "No, I'm always this shade of green." As they all walk off, Tyler thinks to himself this is the perfect time to get Talia to laugh by telling her a joke. So he turns to her and says, "Hey, speaking of green, what's round, green, and goes honk honk?" Talia sighs and says, "Mike Wazowski driving his car." Tyler nervously laughs. "Oh, you've heard that joke." Talia, walking away, turns to Tyler and says, "It wasn't funny the first time I heard it, and it's not funny now. You are not funny." We cut to the break room where Tyler has pulled Val away to talk one-on-one. Tyler tells Val that he doesn't know what he's doing wrong. He proceeds to tell her that he and Talia were getting along earlier, and now all of a sudden Talia is back to being unamused by him. A frustrated Tyler then begins to tell Val how all of this is Miss Flint's fault, and how she is the least funny monster in all of Monstropolis, and how he wouldn't care if Talia went up to her mom's office right now and told her that. Talia, who had been spying on their private conversation, says out loud, "Okay, I'll go tell her that then." Tyler panics and rushes off after Talia on the Mifter work car. As he speeds through the hallway, the car spins out of control and he crashes into the snack cart, causing food and drinks to fly everywhere. Tyler finds himself stuck inside of the cart with donuts hanging from his horns and croissants on his fingertips. The mini monsters, Mike, Sully, and even Talia begin to laugh. As Talia quickly stops herself and reaches for her mom's office door, Tyler breaks free from the cart and tells her to please stop. He begs her to not tell her mom what he had said and confesses to her his master plan. He tells her how he was trying to just get her to laugh so that she would then go tell her mom and that ultimately her mom would then give him another chance. Talia, holding a donut, says, "I knew what you were up to. Other monsters have done that before, but you were the very first one to admit it." She smiles and says, "Respect." And the two end up shaking hands. We then cut to the break room where Fritz tells the mini monsters that their day has come to an end and that he's very proud of each and every one of them. Talia then asks Fritz if she could possibly say a few words and he agrees. As she walks to the front and faces everyone, Talia reveals how she initially thought the day was going to be the worst day ever. But as the day progressed, she realized just how wrong she was. She proceeds to tell the group that the Mifters are the true power behind the operations at Monsters Inc. and that she is proud to call herself a mini Mifter. The mini monsters begin to cheer and exit the room. Talia turns to Tyler one last time and tells him, "You know, you make a pretty good Mifter." Tyler laughs, I guess I do." We then cut to Talia waiting for her mom in front of the Jokester of the Month wall. Miss Flint asks her how her day was and who she was paired with. Talia tells her it was Tyler Tuskman and that he was really funny. The episode then ends with a look of disbelief on Miss Flint's face. Well, that concludes episode 8's breakdown. I liked this particular episode because it reaffirmed my belief that Tyler will end up staying with the Mifters after all, but what do you all think? Do you think he will end up a jokester on the laugh floor scaring alongside Mike? Or do you think he will learn to love his place as a mifter? Let me know down in the comments. As always, thanks for being my guest here at Disney Daily. Until next time.